Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the monthly regular meeting of the Meridian Library District Board of Trustees. It is 7 o'clock and our meeting is now in session. First up is public comment. We always offer an option for public comments via email or other submission methods, and also an opportunity to make comments here in person. I don't believe we have anybody signed up tonight, so we will move on to item number 3, which is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are those considered to be routine, uncomplicated, and not likely to require discussion or face opposition. Supporting information for all consent agenda items is included in our monthly packets, and trustees always have the option to remove any item or items from the consent agenda for individual consideration. Tonight's consent agenda includes the approval of the regular minutes from our January meeting, plus 3 job descriptions and 4 policies. All of the changes are relatively minor, hence their inclusion on the consent agenda. Are there any objections to approving all of the items on the consent agenda? Hearing no objections, the motion passes by unanimous consent. I should have mentioned earlier, we do excuse Trustee Knutson tonight. She's not able to attend. And Trustees Hart and Cummings are joining us remotely online, and with me here in the room is Trustee Castle. Item number 4 on the agenda tonight is the approval of our financials. We have combined the October, November, and December financial reports in our packets and have 2 action items: the approval of the financial reports for that quarter and also the disbursement approvals for the same period. We'll turn it over to Nick and Emma for any comments before we discuss these.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have the information for the first quarter. We're looking really great. A few of the things that I would make note of is that you'll see, especially at the beginning of October, a higher than normal amount of transactions. And that is because we have moved a great number of our subscription-based purchases to October to align with the fiscal year. And so we will see a heavy amount of items kind of hit the books at the beginning of the fiscal year to align with the fiscal year. But many of those are annual subscriptions that therefore will not be paid again until the beginning of next fiscal year. So as much as we can, we have tried to align a lot of our annual subscriptions and annual services to begin at the beginning of October. And so that's why you'll see a larger a number of those sometimes higher priced items, like there's Ref USA or whatever. I can't remember the name. Reference USA. Sorry, it's had like 5 different names. I think that's like an $11,000 database service. We have a lot of those other things that have come through. So other than that, it's relatively routine, and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Questions from the trustees?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Josh.
Hey, I just had one question about, it goes back to the October financials. There was a charge of just about $21,000 for an insurance, builder's risk insurance policy installment. I'd like to have a little bit more information on that, what that actually is. And it just seems a little bit unusual to me.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
That charge was for builder's risk insurance at the Cherry Lane remodel. We worked with both CM Company and our iCrimp insurance representative to get a policy in place that aligned with what CM needed and with what the library needed for that coverage. It is not offered through iCrimp, but working directly with our iCrimp representative, we were able to find something under their advisement.
Okay. Josh, does that answer your question?
Well, not exactly. I mean, I kind of figured it was something related with that, but when I saw a builder's risk insurance policy, who was that protecting? And because it seems like that's something that would protect the contractors that are working on the project, and I think that's a cost that they would carry themselves.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
I'm happy to look into this and provide more context offline. I don't want to give any answer that's not 100% accurate. I believe that we did work with Sam and with our contractor, and I'm inclined to say that we were going to pay for that one way or another, whether it was a bill through CM or directly, but I'm happy to get the exact details on that and forward it to you for disbursement.
Okay. And I would imagine there would have been a similar policy for Pinnacle and Orchard Park when those were constructed, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily, Mr.
Okay.
Chair. So for Pinnacle, for example, we didn't have anything to do directly with the building side of it. We purchased it once the building was completely finished and all the TI work was done. And so that would have been carried by the developers.
Okay.
And so, and with Orchard Park, I'm not entirely sure. Again, a little nuanced piece there because we did not build the Orchard Park. And so we largely were just doing the TI piece of it. And so it would have been in the build out of what we did there a little bit differently. I know that we went back and forth on this when we did. I'm pretty certain. Let me look at my chat here, but let's see. Oh, sorry. I'm getting a note from staff. The reason that we had to do it, I think, was because of new versus remodel, and the it was required by the general contractor on that.
Josh, it sounds like we can get some additional information later if that's acceptable to you.
Yeah, that's totally fine. I basically would like to know what because it's one installment. I'd like to know how many installments there are, what the total cost of the policy is, who it's protecting, and what the limits of liability or what exactly this out of these folks in Florida is protecting. Is that reasonable?
Go ahead, Nick.
Mr. Chair. So I'm just going to read an entirety of a note here. So this is from CM Company, I believe. Our insurance underwriters are concerned about insuring the existing building under our builder's risk insurance policy. The intent of builder's risk insurance is to cover damages to the parts and pieces that we touch, not the entire property. With this being a remodel, it may be easier for you to put the builder's risk insurance on your existing property insurance. At that point, it's probably called something different than builder's risk. So we went through all of this with the insurance companies on both sides to try and figure out exactly how to do that. But that's where this originated from.
And is it still customary that the library district would be the bear the cost?
Yeah, this would be, again, with a remodel, it's different than since there's already things that we own that are there versus all of the things coming in new with the general contractor. So I think we get into the nuance there of remodel versus new build.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please, Emma, go ahead.
As I mentioned previously, we did work with our ICRAMP representative at the Hartwell Corporation to procure this insurance. They put it out to market, and so we did get bids, and they advised us on the best policy. The total cost for the policy for the insurance on that is $41,783. That was made in 2 installments, and the installments are complete.
Thank you. Any additional questions from trustees on that item?
Sorry, I'm having a tough time wrapping my mind around this. So I'm very happy to hear that this was all vetted through ICRAMP and it went to market and everything for lowest cost solution. But at the end of the day, it kind of seems like if a builder is remodeling and they just mess something up, which they are going to do by nature of the job, because it's tearing stuff out and putting new stuff in, I'm just having a tough time wrapping my mind around what possible need is there for this insurance, especially if we already have, general liability policies and, all the policies through ICRMP. If I can just get some more details on this policy and the layers of insurance that the library already has paid for, and participates in, and what above and beyond this 40K is protecting us against. Does that make sense?
Mr. Chair, I will start collating the answers to that as this meeting progresses and have an email to you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. That was all I had.
Thanks, Josh. Any other questions or comments about the financial reports? Hearing none, I would entertain motions for these. We'll do the quarter as 3 months, and then with 2 different action items as listed here on our agenda.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, please go ahead.
I move that we approve the, I believe it would be Q4 of 2025, October, November, December.
It's Q1.
Q1, thank you.
Fiscal year, yeah.
I move that we approve the Q1, October, November, December 2025 financial reports.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Further comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. You want to do this?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, please.
I move that we approve the October, November, December disbursements in the financials.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is item number 5, our budget hearing date for fiscal year 2027. This is a annual meeting that we schedule at this time for during the summer, and it is in our packet here. I'm pulling it up here. August 19th. Thank you. And as listed in our packet, this is just the public posting or the notice for that date to be held on August 19th, 2026 at, do we have the time here? 6:45 is typically, no time listed, but
No time listed. That comes
Later.
later, but it is traditionally at 6:45, 15 minutes before our monthly meeting in August. The reason we do it in August is because we have to have it submitted by August 30th, I believe, to the county.
to start the process for, okay.
And we get the final numbers for the L2 the first Monday of August. And so we will have a special meeting that the Wednesday following the first Monday. And that will then allow us to post the budget in the newspaper and online for public consumption.
So the action item here would be to set the date or to approve
This is
the
just for
memorandum?
the budget hearing. So by approving the memorandum, it
Takes care of that.
takes care of that.
Great. Any questions from trustees on this action item? Okay. If not, is there a motion?
I move that we set the budget hearing date for August 19th for fiscal year 2027.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Up next is our staff presentation on library IQ. Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Jenny and I are here tonight to tell you a little bit about Library IQ. We're excited to show you how we've used this so far and to talk a little bit about what we hope it can do in the future as well.
So we can talk about what Library IQ is to start with. This is a web platform for data-driven insights into a variety of library operations. We can sync it directly with our ILS with Polaris to connect those patron data and those book data records directly to display real-time circulation and catalog information. Library IQ also incorporates community demographics data and how they relate to our active patron base and also our potential patron base. And it also allows us to use our own metrics in other areas. So even if they aren't pulling in data from an existing system, we can store different things there. And I know that Holly's here as our digital services
Digital resources coordinator.
Digital resources coordinator to talk about some of those aspects. And I'm here as the material services manager to talk about some of the collection aspects.
Okay, so first, we want to talk about why Meridian Library was in the market for something like Library IQ. Our previous stat setup left a lot of room for human error. We had several Google Sheets, all of them with manually entered data and formulas that were very easy to mess up. And the system had to be recreated for each new fiscal year. So compiling those year-over-year reports took a long time, and you had to go back through the whole Google Drive, and it was a mess. But it also took a lot of staff time. There are CSVs and Google Sheets that needed to be manually sorted through. Some of them were even line by line. Every month needed to be gone through and sorted into the proper categories. And the connection with the data visualization tool that we were using was unreliable and easily broken. Any sort of structural change within those Google Sheets would often break the connection, and then I had to take the time to go in and fix it. So it was just a lot of staff time.
She mentioned taking her time, but there were also members of our staff in different departments across the district whose labor was needed to make this process happen. So when we say save staff time, not just Holly's, lots of people's.
Yes, lots of people's. So how does Library IQ address those issues that we've just talked about? The first is that it's a big step toward a single source of truth. We have all of our stats in one place. They're not spread out across all these different Google Sheets and spreadsheets. There's no more problematic connection between the raw data and the data visualization tools, because Library IQ allows us to build custom dashboards that use the raw data that's entered directly into Library IQ. And all of our historical data is in one place. So not only is spotting trends easier, but we don't have to take the time to go back through the Google Drive and hunt down the things we're looking for. It's just all in one place. And like Jenny said, it connects directly to our ILS. And right now we're using Polaris, but if we were to change in the future, it connects to any ILS. And material services, so Jenny's team doesn't need to enter any stats at all. I think everyone on your team had a part to play in entering stats before this. Now none of them have to enter stats. So like she was saying, saves a lot of staff time, not just my time, lots of people's times. So some of the ways that we have used Library IQ already is with the annual survey. Every year, ICFL sends out a survey to all public libraries, and they ask for numbers like you can see here: circulation of children's physical materials, total reference transactions, e-serial circulation, program numbers, program attendance, all of the above. And the way we had it before, it was very difficult to go through and hunt down those specific numbers. Now, with these customizable dashboards from Library IQ, you can see this one we've set up specifically for the state survey. And all of our numbers are right there, so it becomes a simple matter of copy and paste. And there's less room for human error. There's no more manual calculations, no more formulas, and one dashboard means less confusion. Another way that we've been able to use Library IQ is with the guiding principles, which were presented to the board last month with Whitney and Jen that they've been working on. And they were able to use the demographics tool within Library IQ and their environmental scan. So as they were going through identifying trends and gaps in our service areas within the community in that environmental scan, they were able to use this demographics tool, which gives us an idea of where our patrons and our community is, not only geographically, but also what they're looking for service-wise. So it can answer questions like, what services are useful for a young family in Meridian? How can we better engage teens? And how likely is the household within a particular income bracket to be a patron? And then you can see this chart. This is part of the demographics tool. We can also look at our daily new registrations. And this is from December 17th to just yesterday. And so as we're doing these library card sign-up initiatives, we can also see how effective they are on a day-to-day basis. This is another snapshot, and we can come back to this because I know there's a lot of numbers. We can come back to this during the questions piece of it. But this is another snapshot from that demographics portion. And so Library IQ, they sort patron households into different cohorts based on age and income. And then within those cohorts, they are able to tell us how many in our community fall into that category, how many of our patrons fall into that category, and even the likelihood of a household within that cohort being a patron, having a library card at their house.
Yeah, so just like Holly, I selected some tantalizing screenshots of this platform to show you a sample of what the things we're working on. I'm really excited about Library IQ for collections. I limited myself to these 6 things that we can be working on right now. I say that it's things that we can be implementing because some of them have been started, some of them are planned, some of them are being explored. But they are all different ways for us to interact with our collections through this platform. So the first one would be visualizing circulation, for example, by branch or over different time periods. The chart I chose here has that dark blue line as our circulation by month for the past year, and the orange line for the circulation the year before that. So you can maybe tell by the small lettering in the title there that this has been filtered to be just Orchard Park Library. Some of those filter options boxes are up at the top that I could choose certain kinds of books and certain kinds of collections if I wanted to. And you can see it. This is a beautiful illustration of something that we all know happened right there in the middle of the chart, where it crisscrosses from being just lining up with the year before's circulation here at Orchard Park to being much, much higher. And that is obviously Cherry Lane closing and a lot of that traffic and on those circulations coming here. The second one I wanted to talk about was identifying records cleanup tasks. In my department, we have the catalogers and the tech services team kind of keeping track of all of these records at the bibliographic level and at the item level for all of our hundreds and thousands of books in our collection. So this is an example where you can take a collections list. This is 333 different titles that we have that are teen nonfiction books. And I can use those tools. I hovered over the filter tool for the material type to show that in this list of things that should be teen nonfiction books, the material type includes teen and includes juvenile. So that shows me when I filter to juvenile, which I did do, but I don't have that screenshot here, there are a small handful of books that have been misclassified as the wrong material type. Not a huge deal in the grand scheme of things. People can still circulate the items. We want to keep those records as accurate as possible, and this will help us find those mistakes. This is usually a typo kind of mistake, something like that. Identify those and have the team fix them. A Library IQ also contains a lot of insights through lists that they already generate. So this tab that they have is listing the different series that we have in the library. Series in this case include things like you can see I sorted these series by total circulation in the past 12 months. And those top series, Step Into Reading, I Can Read Level 1, and Super Read, DK Super Readers. These are easy readers. So I really thought that was great to show that the most read series with a really high use in our district are those books for those kids who are learning to read. We can also automate some of our recurring reports. So Holly was talking about some of the things that we do on a monthly basis. And in some cases, now with this, we can have that information sent directly to us. So if the first of the month lands on a weekend or if it lands on a holiday, those reports are still being generated and we're not having somebody miss that capture. Here's an example of one that we haven't started yet, but is underway, which is that we all know that Unbound is a pretty small collection for circulating materials, but we can have a report scheduled to send us, hey, here's a list of all the titles that are at the Unbound branch that haven't circulated in 6 months or 5 months or whatever I choose. And I can have that list sent to the correct person so that we can just automatically say, let's rotate those off the shelf, make the space to rotate something else on the shelf. And we have the data to show that those were maybe not high interest titles at that location. This one is super special to me. So analyzing more points of data. I've been invited to talk to you about collections a couple times in the past couple years, and I bring maybe more numbers and more charts and graphs than you would have asked for. But sometimes those charts and graphs and numbers represent a few hours of me, copying, pasting, transforming one piece of raw data into a Google Sheet or something like that, and having to make decisions about the way that I look at it that are then kind of locked in and static. So the relative use column there, all the way on the right-hand side, is something that did take me some time to calculate last year, and I have it still as that frozen moment in time, but I can use Library IQ to just hop in and see it in real time. The relative use score tells us in proportion to how much of the collection an item is, or how much of our total collection a smaller collection is. So say adult fiction would be 20% of all our materials. Are they circulating, or do they make up 20% of the circulations as well? And the spoiler is they do not. So if the number is less than 1, they are kind of underperforming in circulation. If the number is higher than 1, they are overperforming and circulating more, and we might want to decide to add more items in those categories. So then we come to my last point, and this is also a very exciting one. A year ago when I talked about some of the things like relative use, I think I brought it last summer to the board, or put it in the board report. We didn't know that the warehouse was going to exist yet. So now we have this location where we can help strategically store and shelve some of the items that are in our collection. These little bubbles here say overstocked or understocked, and you'll see some of them have even a warning triangle next to overstocked or understocked, so that's extremely overstocked or extremely understocked. And those are directly related to that relative use number we talked about on the previous slide. But this chart is showing me our different locations and a few different collections, and showing that I don't know if I can even read this from here, but in some cases we maybe have more items from that collection on the shelf that we need. And I think that's a great candidate for taking some of those items off the shelf, storing them at our warehouse location. People will still read them. The books that only get checked out a couple times a year do still have value to those couple people, but they're not getting browsed at the locations. So that'll give us room to then, when there's something that is understocked, bring in more of those graphic novels. I can see that youth graphic novels line. Never have enough anywhere. Okay.
Okay, and so to close, some of the takeaways that we have found in, I think we got this officially set up back in October, and we did staff training in November. And in that time, we found that real-time data visualization has already been really helpful for planning and reporting. Most of the data pulled from the circulation data and collections data is pulled on a daily basis. And then getting started with Library IQ has included a lot of opportunities for us to verify that we are using the same terms across the whole district. That when we talk about an item being added, we're all talking about the same thing. When we talk about an offsite program, we're all talking about the same thing. And Library IQ is a very powerful tool, and with the powerful tool comes a lot of chance for exploration. And we're still very much in that exploration phase, but we're very excited to see what other ways we can use it. So, cool. Thank you. Yes.
Great, thank you. Questions for Jenny and Holly from trustees, or comments?
This is Mr. Chair. This is more of a comment. I really appreciate this view of essentially using technology to make our lives more seamless and easier and less, I want to say, just manual entry burdensome, right? And so I appreciate this direction that you guys have gone. I'm fully supportive of it. Kind of honestly, I found myself interested to know this as a patron. Like, I have no idea what the most read book in the library is, the most known series, right? So, if you're ever looking for some material to fill out a letter with, I'd probably read it and go,
Put it in the
hey, yeah, put it in a newsletter, right? Oh yeah, this is what everyone reads, Garrett. Okay. So, just thought it was interesting.
I would also read that newsletter, but obviously.
Yes.
Destiny or Josh, any questions or comments from the two of you?
Mr. Chair, you bet.
Go ahead.
I just want to say, this is fantastic. And Garrett kind of hit on something that I think we could maybe easily, I like to write checks other people have to cash, but on the Meridian Library District website, it seems like there should be a little page that says, hey, here's, out of 200,000 plus books, here's the percentage that are young adults or juvenile or kids, and kind of just like a one snapshot graphic, I guess. And you could tie in, I know we have the library staff picks tab, but having just a snapshot of, hey, here's what your library has to offer. and here's the most popular things, or something like that, as an output from Library IQ would be a pretty easy kill, I would think, to just help our public facing website with showing off what we got. Otherwise, yeah, fantastic.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So, Trustee Cummings and Trustee Castle, you kind of hit on something that I'll touch on here in a few minutes with some of my updates, but the guiding principles that were adopted last month by the board, two of them in particular speak directly to this, which is build awareness and enhance collections. And so these are focus areas and tasks that we will be getting to a little bit here in a minute, but we will be looking at ways to share this information in a lot of different ways, but really trying to find ways that this information can resonate with the public. And so it'll be a fine line of not just throwing everything out there, but finding ways that people can engage with that content.
Thank you. That graph that you had up there at the very end, even that's pretty impressive. Just to say a physical book, 26 cents per checkout, and Canopy was 98 and Overdrive was higher than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Holly, I've got a question for you. So tell me about these cohorts. What's an example of a cohort? How does somebody get added to a cohort?
Yes, it's a great question. So basically, cohorts are on a graph. And so your x-axis is age, and then your y-axis is income. And so this is based off of all public records. And something really important to note that I do want to add is that all patron data is completely safe, completely private through Library IQ. There's no way that I, as someone who has access to Library IQ, could go in and find information about a specific patron. Nothing like that. So, but it's all based off of public records. And so like IQ cohort 1 is both the youngest and the wealthiest. And then that breaks down into, if you can see there are links on those, so you can click on any of those in Library IQ, and it brings up a breakdown of about their income level, if they're married, if they have kids.
Likely to be.
Yes, likely to have, yes. How likely they are to be married, how likely they are to have young children. Even things like what restaurants they're likely to eat at and what stores they're likely to shop at and what sort of activities they're likely to be interested in. So some of those in cohort 1, if I remember right, I think it's like hiking is one of the ones that they say that those people tend to be interested in. And so we can tailor our programs and our offerings to outdoor sorts of things.
Mr. Chair, I would add to that. These are very generalized. These are not based on specifics. So even like the restaurants that were mentioned, there are restaurants that are in the cohort for one of these groups that we'll look at it and be like, these restaurants aren't even in the Treasure Valley. So they're using like items to be able to make some generalizations, but it helps us recognize how to look at large numbers of people in a consolidated way. So the smallest cohort here is 243, but the largest cohort is 13,000, over 13,000 people. So does it apply to every single one of these? Is it, that dialed in? Obviously not. We have to make some generalizations to be able to talk about large groups of people in a coherent way.
So are these essentially the households in the district based on public records?
Correct.
It's not that Jeff Kohler lives at this address and he has a library card and I know it. And
no, it's based on data from like the census and that type of data with it. We can look at combining a lot of different information. That's what the beauty of this software is. It takes all this public data and then makes it digestible in pieces that we can understand without having to dive into all 51,000 people individually. So how can we make some generalizations that allow us to make some at least directed decisions based on likelihoods of people and how they act? and what their needs are.
Mr.
Chair.
Chair. Oh, pardon me.
Go ahead,
User
Jenny.
personas of sorts.
Thanks. Jenny, go ahead.
I would say that it wouldn't say Jeff Kohler at this address, but Library IQ does know the addresses of our cardholders, so we can look at a map of where addresses are clustered.
Okay.
But it's decoupled from the other personal identifying information.
And so you would say this neighborhood is likely this household income level and
And likely
likely to have a library card or not.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
My inner library geek wants a read-only access to the system, but I won't ask you for that.
We did think that this was going to be a really attractive pile of
Yes.
numbers for some.
Garrett probably too would like this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Actually, that brings up a good question, Mr. Chair. What did you find on the learning curve for this thing? So some of these kind of tools, like, for example, Power BI, everyone loves its output. A lot of people dislike its learning curve to get the information into it, right? What did you guys find on it?
Yeah, so we did training back in November and December, and Library IQ hosted that training for us. Since then, I mean, it was about an hour long, and since then I've had like a couple questions. So with any tool, there's definitely some learning curve, but I would say there are other things that I have learned that are much harder.
I have an answer for that too. That I think some of our learning curve is not necessarily interfacing with the platform, but with changing what we currently do in order to apply that. So I showed ways that you might be able to generate a weeding list, for example, like that report for Unbound to say these books are not circulating at this location. Should we move them or should we, choose to deselect them? And right, we've been doing weeding lists for years, for decades, and you do it that way. So getting the procedure set up to do things with this tool might be a bit of our learning curve. And then that second bullet point that we had on our last slide of making sure that we trust that we assume the data are saying is what the data are saying. Like if we're looking at a number that says circulation, I want to know if that does it include renewals or is it just initial circulation? I think those are two pretty different numbers. And if I don't know the difference, then I can't trust the data as much. So that's my learning curve too, is learning what exactly it means when there's these beautiful, like the one that you pointed out, these beautiful charts in front of me of cost per circ. I put this here as an example of something that I don't know exactly how it's pulling that physical cost per circ. I feel really confident in the overdrive one. I feel really confident in the canopy one. I don't know exactly if the physical one means the same thing. So hopefully I will do a good job of cutting through that noise when we're presenting you with anything that we find in Library IQ.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Garrett. Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I would only encourage you in the world of that's a very normal thing that occurs for organizations when you have to let go of I was manually doing this, right? It's normal to go through the validation of whether the new, more flexible system can give you the output you want. So yeah, I kudos to you guys.
Holly, I've got one more question for you. One of the first slides you showed was the ICFL annual report stats. So let's say I bring my family to pajama story time. How does our attendance get recorded? Does it happen in like that night that somebody punches in how many attendees were there?
Yep. So that's one of those that still has to be done manually. Unfortunately or fortunately, there's not a counter at the door to automatically sync into Library IQ. But it kind of varies from programmer to programmer. I think they all have different ways they like to do it. Most of them have a little clicker, and so they just click. And then at the beginning of every month, I send out my reminder email and say, hey, don't forget to enter your stats. And then the current process, they do still enter it into a Google form. And then I take that information and compile it and put it into Library IQ.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Thanks for the presentation.
Of course.
That brings us to item number 7, the director update section. Mr. Grove.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I get started, I will say, Trustee Castle, take the learning curve piece with a grain of salt because those two learn very quickly. I would double whatever time they said for most people. So I'm glad they're doing it and not me. So
If I find myself trying to learn Library IQ, I will appropriately double it.
all right, we will start tonight's director updates with Cherry Lane, since that is the thing that is usually the most near and dear to some of the conversations that we've had over the last year. So just want to start this. This is a thing, and now this is a video that we got from the contractor. There's no audio unless Basile wants to sing. So, so this is showing, this is a drainage for the parking lot where the annex used to be. They also dug out a septic tank that was in that area that we did not know about. And so we learn all types of new fun things when doing a renovation project. But this is showing some of, there's an irrigation ditch on the east side of that runs under the concrete, basically like where the stop sign is through the through line to the back of the property. Just a quick overview of the video, and now these are some of the pictures that I took when we visited last week, when one of the architects was in town, and Trustee Cummings was able to join us as we walked through and ask some questions. He might be able to help answer any questions that the board has, but they're making a lot of progress. On that first photo on the left is the former lobby of Cherry Lane. You can see the front doors where they are with the graphic above the window on the windows, and to the left where you see those beams, they look almost black from this distance, but they're kind of a reddish color. Those are where the bathrooms used to be. The middle picture is the former children's area, which will be the teen area going forward. And that back corner in the top of the picture essentially is where the bathrooms were for the children's area. And then in the middle where those windows are is where the children's program room used to be. And then the other picture is kind of in that same space, just turning from south to north, and in the back dark corner is where the staff area was, and so you can see where the circulation desk used to be. So they've made a lot of progress. I found out this week that they've already started to frame in a lot of the spaces, even from when we visited last week, and so they've made a lot of progress in terms of getting all of the hard things out of the way. And you can't really see it in here, but there's tunnels underneath the floor to run the plumbing and some of the electrical conduits. So it's really amazing to see all the work that they're doing to put into this project. And this is just a real quick timeline of where we're at with the project. I can see that my moving of things got a little off, but we moved out obviously in August. They started demo in September. There's still a lot of demo that they'll be doing through April, namely with the new entrance that we will have on the east side of the building. There's a lot of demolition that will need to occur before we can do the construction of that new entrance. The trusses are the piece that we've talked about, and we don't have a final cost on that piece individually, but needless to say, the number is much lower than initially feared, but more than we had anticipated going into the project. So they are, if you've driven by, I know you said you had driven by, Mr. Chair, today, parts of the roof are off, and they are working on those trusses currently, and it will take some time for that to be fully done, but a large part of it will be finished in the next few weeks, and it won't truly be completed till they do the entrance as well. So they're all interconnected at a certain point. They've already done most or all of the plumbing and HVAC work. Those things have to be done first because they go in places that are already starting to get enclosed. The domed area in the middle of the building, which will be a sightline piece when you first walk in with the new entrance. When I was there, it didn't have any covering on it. You could still see all of the beams. This week they've already covered most, if not all, of that section with sheetrock. And when the weather starts warming up, they'll be outside doing the parking lot and landscaping. There's a lot to do there. They have closed the entrance already from where it used to be, and so the entrance is now, or the exit on the west side of the Cherry Lane parking lot is now both the entrance and exit for the construction. But they're working on the former annex site with the drainage, and then they'll be covering that and getting all of those pieces moving forward, because that will be the site of our entrance and exit, or primary exit. We will continue to have the former exit on the west side of the parking lot as a right out only. It's currently right and left, but it'll become a right out only, whereas the full entrance exit will be both east and west, entrance and exit. And then after that, we'll do the finishes. So there's a lot of finishes that go in, cabinetry, carpet, floor finishes, all those things. That'll be happening in the summertime. Then we'll have the punch list, which takes a long time to go through that, where we have to get final sign off and inspections. And when we get the handover, which will be right before Thanksgiving currently, we will then be able to start the move-in after Thanksgiving, and we will have a grand opening sometime, probably gonna just say spring of 2027. I'm not gonna put a date on this because I will be wrong, and I don't want to have to eat my words later. So I will just say spring of 2027 is what we are. Early 2027. That even better. Early 2027. My guess would probably be, if I had to put a date on it, would be somewhere in the range of early March. But again, please don't hold me to that. And this will be the new entrance. And getting back to what I was talking about earlier, we talked last month, you adopted the guiding principles, and we have created the focus areas for 2026, those being collections, communication, and customer service. So using those guiding principles, our 5-year guiding principles, each year we will have our focus areas of where are we putting a lot of our attention. And in a second, I'll show you the tasks that will come with each of these. But the reason we chose collections, communication, and customer services, these were themes and topics that related to all or almost all of our guiding principles. And so using those to really hone in on the pieces that we need to work on this year. So reflecting what our community wants and how they find it is collections. Improving how we communicate, promote, and connect, communications and the customer service, building skills and consistency to support great service. Now, when we take that collection focus area, we have 4 tasks that we are going to be working on in this year, which are collection purchase request process. It's a lot of words to say. How do we help people know the status of a request? Right now, it goes to our staff that do collection development, but you don't know what the status of that request is until you find out that you're on hold for that item. So how can we improve that process? We are currently looking at doing a community collection survey. So we just finished our annual survey a few months back, but now we are going to do a much more targeted survey to our patrons on just our collections, so to find out what are people's feelings towards what is in our collection and how they use our collection. How do they find things? And then one of my favorites is readers advisory training. This is something that is quintessential to library service. For anyone who's worked in a library, this is how you tell people how to find books that they're interested in. So if I come and ask one of our library staff, can you give me a book that is similar to Percy Jackson? I've read everything in that series, but I want something that's similar. Can you give me some reading recommendations? And our staff can then provide those recommendations and help you find those items. And so we want to make sure that all of our staff have the most up-to-date trainings and tools at their disposal. And then review collection categorizations. I can't say that word, so categories. This is something that we want to review as a team in looking at how do we put items on our physical shelves. So some of the libraries in our Links Consortium and across the nation have taken a more extreme version of what we did or have done with our picture books, which is to put them into categories. And so when you go to find something, how do you go to find it on our shelves? So do you go and find the mystery section, or do you go and find the author who wrote that book? This can get a little dicey when an item has multiple genres. How do you find those materials? And so just trying to go back and look at what's best for our patrons. Communication, we need to audit our website. It's old at this point. There's just no way around the fact that it's old. And with an old website, despite all the work that Holly puts into it, there's still pieces in there that we can make more usable and make sure that we don't have any outdated material in there. It's an Herculean task that can't be done alone. Establish staff feedback best practices. I have some things that I can show you later, but we updated our committee structure at staff day on Monday. That will help navigate that. And then evaluate need for mission, vision, and values. So this is something that kind of was an offshoot of the strategic planning guiding principles process. And we want to make sure that what we have there is good for us going forward. And so you'll be seeing that a lot more in the coming months to make sure that what we have either is updated and we keep it, or we look at it and say, doesn't have any purpose to what we need going forward. How that shakes out, I have no idea. That's why it's on here as a task. And then improve marketing standard operating procedures. And this is a top to bottom piece for us. And how do we share information with the public, and how do we make sure that we do it with consistency? Customer service, I think anybody who works with the public, you can always do customer service trainings, and that's something that we have really wanted to put a focus on. One of our favorites that we've been talking about is designing external welcome packets. How do we create something for new users? When you get a library card, how do we welcome you to the Meridian Library District? If you're new to the community and haven't gotten a library card yet, how do we connect with you in a way that meets you where you are and encourages you to be a user of the library district? And then explore outreach roles and responsibilities. So really diving into how do we go out into the community and who does what and why. And then reference interview training. This is probably another favorite of mine, but how do you ask questions of a person that's in front of you so that you get to what they're actually asking when you're trying to help them answer a question? You're not answering exactly what they've asked, you're answering what they're trying to ask. A lot of times people have a hard time verbalizing what they're wanting to get help with. So how do you get to the bottom of what they're actually trying to ask, and do so in a friendly manner and quickly? Quickness is also a piece of being friendly and having great customer service. So the reference interview training is something that I think behooves everyone at all stations in the library process. And then this one is really cool. Ms. Chair, you were there at staff day at the end, and we were able to talk about this, but we polled the staff, all 90 plus of us that were at staff day. What is the one goal? If we boiled everything that we're doing down for 2026, what is our staff goal for the year? And they had 6 options, and they voted. We saw the poll in real time, and the option that they chose was to increase our card holders from 50,000 to 60,000 in 2026. And that is a real stretch goal. We have a lot of work to be able to get to that point, but that is, as a staff, top to bottom, all almost 100 of us, that is our goal, to be able to increase to 60,000 cardholders by the end of 2026. So if there's nothing else that staff remember, or even the trustees remember, for what our guiding principles are, what our value or what our focus areas are, what our tasks are, our goal is really simple. We want to increase the number of cardholders by the end of the year. And so trying to make it simple, but also connected with everything else that we're doing. And I'll hand it off to the seal.
Thank you, Nick. Mr. Chair, trustees, just wanted to give you guys a brief summary of some fun things that we did in January. So we kicked off the year with some reading programs. So winter reading program, which has been a big hit over the last few years, took place. So both of these kickoff parties took place here in Orchard Park. We had over 150 families sign up for winter reading with over 540 individual enrollments. The Steelheads players show up, their mascot shows up, they take photos with the kids. Kids love that. And so that program is well underway and going through March 14th. And then the annual Extreme Book Nerd kicked off. So that's 50 books, 50 categories in 50 weeks. So that's that one ends on December 28th. We partner with Dutch Bros to have a hot drink stand outside, which was appropriate for January, and over 100 people attended. So that was another successful kickoff party. And I wanted to shout out Unbound and the networking breakfast that they do on Thursdays of the month. So that takes place a little before the branch opens, and it's really taken shape over the last few years. When I was there as a manager over 2 years ago, we hosted our first one, and we had 8 people attend, and 3 of those were staff members. So right now it's averaging about 25 attendees, which, as you all know, 25 attendees at Unbound really feels like a very well attended. 23 last week. Okay, so we were too short of the average, but still very close. And so we've partnered with local organizations each month, or businesses rather, to be a breakfast sponsor, and have had presenters from different businesses. And last week sounds like it was a speed networking format, which is very interesting. Director Grove says he attended, and it was very cool. But really, what this is offering is a different networking opportunity for folks here in Meridian. So it's been a big success. It's, again, growing, well attended. Folks are saying, we're getting a lot of good feedback. I mean, most events are chamber sponsored or other business organizations, which is awesome, and those are great. But this is another alternative where folks can meet, and it really, going back to raising awareness and making connections. That's something that we're doing with these networking meetings. And riding on that success, Unbound is now trying something called Ready Set Network, which is a cool youth program to help teens learn how to network effectively. So we have community partners joining and working with young folks in the community to learn networking skills, which as most of us know is very important, especially someone who never liked networking. Networking skills are vital to being successful. So, and beyond the library, we've been to both the Ada County Jail and the South Boise Women's Correctional Center. That one in partnership with the Ada Community Library, but basically doing presentations on the many resources we have to offer. And we were just talking about some more services we could bring them. So it's really nice to make that connection. I know it's something we've done on and off for years, but the fact that we're in multiple facilities now is really promising. And just highlighting River Valley Elementary's Family Read Night, where we interacted with over 80 families and connected with over 100 attendees at their STEM night. So it's, again, we're doing some great outreach in the community. These were all in January, and I thought we'd share those with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Comments or questions from the trustees?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Garrett.
as always, comment rather question. I apologize for those. Right. I really like this direction of continuing to think about mission, values. If I had any advice, it would be to think about every year is different, but how to have like a unified, here is who we are, which these guiding principles get to. It's just easy to chase a task every single year that's different, right? So, just want to keep that in the back of our minds. That's all,
Josh, Destiny, any questions or comments?
Nope, all good stuff. Keep up the great work.
20% increase in cardholders. That's aggressive.
Yes, it is.
That's good. I'm happy. Yes.
Mr. Chair, it'll be a stretch goal.
Thank you both. That brings us to item number 8 on the agenda, future agenda items. What should we consider for our March meeting? I liked the chart, the timeline chart for Cherry Lane. Please keep doing that.
Will do.
Garrett, anything?
nothing top of mind.
Destiny, Josh, anything for the agenda next month?
Nothing from me.
Nothing here.
I might have some things I'll tell you later. All right. That brings us to the end of our meeting tonight. It is 8:02 and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
See you next month.